regular school board meeting to order now. We'll maintain our pledge. Let the record reflect, also let the record reflect for the Board of Finance that all board members were present except for Angie Jacobs. She was unable to make these meetings tonight and for circumstances outside of her control, so she would love to be here, I'm sure. Are there any visitor comments tonight? Nope. All right. Then we'll have the consent agenda. And for the consent agenda, it includes the approval of minutes from December 19th, 2022 regular board meeting. Financial would include the treasurer's report for December of 2022. And can you give us the claims, Mr. Darnell?
Thank you, Mr. President. For gross wages on 12/9 of 2022, $867,219.60. For gross wages on December 23rd, 2022, $734,496.65. For claims prepaid, 12/1 to 12/31 is $3,056,051.46. For claims and regular vouchers of January 17th, 2023, $383,319.07. And Forest Hill vouchers on January 28th, 2023 for $5,286.46 for a grand total of $5,046,373.24.
Thank you, Mr. Durham. We have two donations this evening. There is $466 from Donors Choose, and that will go to Mrs. Truax's classroom for craft supplies. There is also an additional $471 from Donors Choose to Ms. Robbins' classroom for the Learning Center. Donors Choose has often been used by our teachers to get special supplies and things for their room, so it's a great way to go in, and donors can choose which programs they want to support, so that's great. We also have personnel, resignations, retirements, non-renewal leaves, and terminations 1 through 7, and appointments and transfers 1 through 3, E1 through 3. There are also 2 out-of-state and overnight field trips to discuss this evening. One is for the Edgewood Junior High School Accelerated Band and Jazz Band to have a trip to Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio. And the other is consideration for the Edgewood Junior High School robotics team to go to the U.S. Open Championship in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So to get this on the table, do we have a motion?
I move approval for the consent agenda.
One second.
Moved and seconded. Dr. Sanders, would you like to go over the trips?
Sure. The trip for the Junior High Accelerated Band and Jazz Band to Kings Island is May 6th. Mr. Kaler is here, a talented band director. Would you care to come up and say a few words about your rationale for this trip? We are very lucky to have Brian Paulson, Kyra Campbell, Kurt Kaler, and just talented folks leading our music program. So Lisa Braun at the elementary level.
This trip is the same. It's basically a repeat of what we did last year. It's just a reward trip for the kids. We did take trips before COVID, and so we reinstated it last year. And so we take the older students on a reward trip for all the hard work they've put in the years at junior high. That's really it. No, it's not overnight. It's a one-day trip.
Okay, it's not an overnighter. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And the next trip is an overnight trip and out-of-state both. This is a great opportunity for our junior high robotics team, and Kelly Grimes and our robotics team are here tonight, and they'd like to come up and say a few words.
Hello, Erin Hansen and I have the pleasure of introducing our 52191C robotics team. So there's Rin Ferguson, Chloe Chambers, Aylin Kowali, and and Lolo Hanson, Lorelei Hanson. They have a few words they'd like to say, and I'll let them do that.
We'd like to take this time to tell you why this trip to create U.S. Open Robotics Championship is so important, what we've learned with robotics, and who we'd like to thank for supporting us in our journey.
Robotics has given us an opportunity to communicate with adults and people outside our grade. The skills we've learned by participating in robotics are critical thinking, innovation, collaboration, communication, persistence, compassion, and problem solving. These are all skills we hope to take with us to whatever awaits us in our future. We think this trip is important because we get to observe the way other teams design, code, and build. We will also have the opportunity to collaborate with people from all over the world. But the reason this competition is so important is because it's a new experience for the team, coaches, and mentors. Also because no other team in this district is going to the competition.
We'd like to take this last bit of our time to thank the coaches, mentors, Mr. Siglin, Mr. Pogue, Dr. Sanders, and the school board for supporting our team, and to show our appreciation for allowing us to go to this amazing trip to Iowa.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
How wonderful. Hope they have a wonderful success in going to that competition.
Well, this might be a good time to put in a plug. There is a competition this Saturday at the elementary level, so that our teams of the future you can see, and it is amazing when you see these kids in action. All the qualities and things that they are learning, they just talked about. One that I can say, these guys didn't have to deal with it, but a lot of them are learning how to deal with frustration when something breaks down and they got to fix it. And it is amazing how quickly they can fix things that I have no idea what they're doing, but it's a lot of fun. So I encourage people to come and watch.
I've helped judge a couple times at the elementary level. Well, I guess judging was at the junior high level, the last competition too. My son, John Kerr, is a robotics coach at the intermediate school, and it's a lot of fun to go and see. I mean, these teams work so hard, all year long, all season long, to prepare their machine, to do all sorts of amazing tasks, and being a judge, it was great because I got to converse with the students, and just to hear tonight, hear their passion for their program and their love for what it is that they do is just very enjoyable to be a part of. So if anybody else would like to help out or at least attend and see how it goes, there is one Saturday morning, as Mr. DeMoss said.
It'll be a big crowd too. I was at the one last year. There's a lot of parents there. A big crowd. So I don't know if this is the time, Dr. Sanders, but I wanted to congratulate Miss Hanson on her appointment tonight. She's one of the coaches, and she's going to be our new media specialist at the junior high. So congrats, former Edgewood grad, 35 years ago. I don't even know how old. I know you're older than I used to be when I had you as a student. So congrats on that. And good luck to you with that, with the program.
You're getting old. No.
Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Hope you enjoyed your trip. Okay, next up, we have the Assistant Superintendent's report, so we will turn it over to Mr. Irwin.
All right, so you should have a couple sets of documents there in front of you. So the cash flows for the school corporation, kind of like we talked about with the Board of Finance, you see a lot of this stuff on a monthly basis. And so the education fund closed out 2022, definitely above our expectations. The interest on investment, collections on our payables for preschool tuition and other building items was higher. We definitely saw an increase in the state tuition support as far as it went along with our ADM and our enrollment. And again, all of this played a part in just putting us in a position again this year to be able to push all of our known new money at this time into staff salary and benefits. The appropriation that was left, we did not encumber all of it. We encumbered a decent amount of it, which just meant that we rolled some of that appropriation to the next budget. And then again, I think that we probably should have some conversations about sometime during this first quarter, maybe moving some of that money into rainy day to continue to build that up a little bit. Right now, rainy day is at $1 million. And I would like to see us probably, put about 200,000 into rainy day if we can. And probably just make that decision sometime in the first quarter of this year before we roll towards the middle of the year. Debt service, we ended definitely within appropriation. Debt service always cuts really close on appropriation because it's really to a T as far as what your expenses and all those things are gonna be. We did pay back our tax anticipation warrant from 2022. Paid back the interest that went along with it. We do plan and have submitted for the 2023 tax warrant, which will be a lot smaller than it was last year, just because based on the budget and when those shortfalls are, we don't need as much of it. The interest for that is something that's already planned out in the 2023 budget, and those funds for that TAW for the 2023 year should come in here in the next couple of weeks. They tend to come in towards the end of January. On the operations fund, really, we're about as close as even as you're gonna get at the end of the year as far as where we started. Some good things, we didn't experience the tax cap loss that we had expected based on the circuit breaker report. We did encumber the remaining appropriation to the following year's budget, just brought that forward, and we are still in a solid place. 2023s, there's a lot there. I spent a lot of time trying to roll back and dig into some of the weeds on this to try to pull back and not be too conservative on some of my estimates. But what I built into as far as getting into some of those variables at the end of the year, not knowing exactly what the legislators are gonna pass as far as the next legislative budget, I know what the governor's priorities were. Hopefully that comes true. We'll see. But what I put in there was just a conservative estimate of about a 2.6% increase in foundation. I flatlined the complexity and the enrollment and then our current state grant numbers and used that to create what I think would be a conservative estimate. If all those things stay the same, this is what it would look like. It's hard to project that, but we'll see. The other thing is just, again, looking at the transfers and stuff like that. I did a little bit of movement on the transfer. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Last year, we let our transfer percentage fall, and so we didn't bring as much into the operations fund as far as percentages go as what we did in the past. And so we needed to pull that up a little bit as we move forward, but we're well below that threshold. But again, and then the debt service one, again, is outlined based on our 1782 notice, what we know our payments are, and all of those things. It's pretty straightforward. We are gonna eat into a bunch of cash and debt service, because that's based on our allowable cash balance of what we're allowed to have. And then we also had the DLGF lower our levy by about $650,000 to keep our tax rate down to $1.07. We let that fall down to $1.07. So that's part of the reason that you see those cash year-end numbers go down in the debt service fund as well. So with that, I'll take any questions.
It looks like approximately 1,700 or 1.7 million-ish is about the average monthly expenses. And so finishing off with 3.6, we'll basically have 2 months worth of,
Close to 2 months, yeah.
yeah, so.
So we're definitely in a great place, and it allows us to continue to be aggressive with what we're doing as far as we look at the way that we're looking at programming, or we're looking as our staffing needs change, or we look at pay as things continue to move forward into in this upcoming year. We're definitely in a good position to continue to be aggressive in that way like we've been the last couple of years. Operations fund, you can see that the year-end cash balance, it shows us eating in a little bit. Again, I built some things in there that are conservative, but I'm not gonna be overly aggressive and say, hey, this is a possibility. So we'll just, like we do, we monitor that as the year goes on, month to month, and we'll make adjustments as we see necessary.
And with that, we also have the GO bonds.
We have the
that take
GO
care of a
bonds,
lot.
yeah, which are a huge benefit. And then the other piece of that is we're getting ready to do the bus bids and the contracts. And so again, there's so many variables. Even you would think, hey, it's only 12 months from now, but to say, this is exactly what this is going to look like, and this is exactly what this is going to look like, it's kind of hard to do that. So we'll put as much of an educated guess on that as we can, so.
Well, you did pretty good for 2022.
Yes, we did, yeah.
So,
We'll have bus bids in February, is that right?
We have timelines, the actual approvals and everything like that is in February.
So
Yeah.
that's when we'll vote on that?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
in February. I believe I'd have to double check the timeline, but that was what was approved last month was the timeline that was out, yeah.
And by lowering the tax rate next year, our tax, that means that we're even going to not get any closer to the tax cap, right?
It
It's
should
gonna-
keep,
It's going to help us even more not hit the tax cap.
yeah, dependent on other taxing units
Just
and
so-
that sort of
okay.
thing, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, good, thank you.
okay. All right, so the next item up is consideration to approve the resolution for the 2023 transfers from the Education Fund to Operations Fund. Mr. Earl?
Yeah, so the resolution is an up to amount. I didn't set a specific number on this. Again, what we're allowed to, before you kind of get on the DOE's list where they have an expansive amount of things that you have to do with them, is if you're transferring over 15% of your education fund revenue to the operations fund, it puts you on that list with them. We're well below that list. We were 11.5% in 2022. And again, that up to amount is based on that educated guess on what that cumulative revenue is going to look like in the education fund, knowing that with that number, I don't expect us to be anywhere close to that number, but it allows us to not say, hey, we're cut that too short, now I got to come back and bring it back to you guys again to say, hey, let's adjust this again. Again, you guys see the transfer amount every single month as we do it. And this is that up to that just says, here's a maximum amount that we could do, just to make sure that we stay underneath that limit.
Okay. We have a motion.
Move approval of the transfer from the education fund to operations fund. Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have consideration to approve the adjunct teacher permit. Mr. Irwin?
So this is a new one for us. And so this past year, the Indiana General Assembly and the DOE changed some rules that allowed schools to be more flexible when it comes to trying to fill a vacancy, especially in a class like this one. So the media productions, and you saw that on the consent agenda for Erin Hansen to be the media production teacher at EJHS, allows us to hire someone who's not a certified teacher to teach that class as long as they meet certain requirements. And part of the things that we have to do in order to make that follow the law and what it is that they want us to do is that the governing board, all of you, have to approve a permit, a adjunct teacher permit, which is just a pretty standard form that we turn all this stuff into the DOE and they track that to make sure that it meets all of their guidelines. And so I put that in the board packet. So by doing this, we're just filling one of those steps that the state says that we have to do in order to be able to hire an adjunct teacher and make that kosher with the rules that they put in place.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the adjunct teacher permit?
I'll move to approve the adjunct teacher permit.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments?
It just makes sense, number 8. We'll do permission to make number 8 official. Right.
Yep, so with the consent agenda, then you do the permit, and then now we have approval of the contract, of the employment agreement, and yeah, that's all part of the steps. It's not a necessity to have to do it that way, it's still an at-will status, but it just outlines the things that are part of the employment agreement. You know, what's the pay gonna be, what are the benefits gonna be, how many days, how many pay periods, just some of the basic outlines of what that would look like for the employee.
So can we vote on both at the same time then, or do we have to have another vote? I make a,
What's that?
The motion was only for the permit, so that's what we have on the
Okay.
table right now.
All right.
Okay, anything
Can I
further?
can I amend the motion? Let's just vote.
I can withdraw it and we can read.
By the time we do that,
All right,
we just
go
bring it
for
up.
go for it. I just thought that was odd how they were put together.
Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I move to approve the teacher contract,
I
the
second.
adjunct teacher contract.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
All right, so we got that. Now, we have permission to void the corporation and ECA checks that are older than 2 years as of 12/31/22. Mr. Irwin.
Yeah, so this is routine business of the school corporation and the board every year per board policies. Corporation checks and ECA checks older than 2 years as of that date would become void. We do make attempts to try to let people know that that's there, but sometimes people just don't cash those checks. So it allows us to just do some general cleanup of those outstandings.
Okay. Motion?
I make a motion to give permission to void the ECA checks.
I'll second.
It's corporation and ECA.
Corporation and ECA checks, excuse me.
Is it seconded?
Yes, I'll
Yes.
second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It's an annual thing we do. The next two involve EECC, and so I'll turn it over to Dr. Sanders to begin with that.
Yes, I would like to introduce our director of the Edgewood Early Childhood Center, Heather Kinsick, to come up, and she's going to speak about the next two items.
23-24 school year.
Yeah, so we are looking at what classes we're going to offer as enrollment opens in the next couple of months. And our demand for full-day pre-K has increased tremendously over the past several years. Over 50% of families who tried to enroll for this school year wanted full-day pre-K. And so I'd like to reorganize our classes in order to be able to maybe take more full-day pre-K and also to just create some continuity in the classes. Our current offerings are within each pre-K class and 3-year-old class, you can choose 2 days, 3 days, or 5 days. So I'd like to change that to 2 full-day pre-K classes that are 5 days a week. And then we would have another class that's full-day pre-K or 3-year-olds that could be 2 days or 3 days, rather than having those mixed within the same class, to help the teachers be able to focus on the needs of the students and not having them mixed and they're on different days. And then the second thing and the half-day classes would stay the same. So we would still offer the same half-day class that we're offering now with the 2-day, 3-day, or 5-day option for 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds pre-K students. The other thing we want to consider is moving back to a late start schedule on Wednesdays to coincide with what the rest of the schools are doing. Just 30 minutes on Wednesdays in order to allow our teachers to have PLC planning time and collaborative team meetings. In order to make up that time, since we do charge tuition, we want to add 5 minutes to the schedule at the end of the day every day. So instead of dismissing at 2:45, we would dismiss at 2:50. That more closely lines up with the EPS and EIS dismissal anyway, so it helps those families that are picking up kids in both locations.
So,
Move to approve the class offerings for 23-24.
is there a second?
I'll second.
We would second. Any questions?
I'm just curious about the Wednesday, the parents that are used to Wednesdays, is that, because I've got a lot of young parents that live down by me, and they're like, if they're used to it, are they gonna get plenty of notice? That's all.
It would be for next school year.
I know, but are they gonna get plenty of notice, like,
Whenever we put out our class offerings and they enroll, the schedule would be presented to them as these are the times of the classes for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Wednesday would be 9:15 to 2:50. So they would know when they sign up for preschool that that's what the schedule would be.
okay, yeah, because a lot of them have to coordinate that with their employers, and then the employers get frustrated?
Over half of our kids have siblings at EPS and
Yeah, I was
EIS,
gonna say
so those families are already dropping off their
Work out better
kids.
that way, hopefully, okay, okay.
And I really liked Heather's
Yeah.
plan, because I think it's going to even better prepare our children for kindergarten, not only enabling the teachers to be able to make their, streamline their lessons and having the kids in there together, but also just more time with the students and preparing them for kindergarten. So I think it's a really good plan.
It seems like it'd be really difficult when you have the mixed classes
Yeah.
to try to keep everybody on the same
Right.
progress, so sounds really good.
How's the playground?
It's great, we love it.
The inside one, is that in yet, the inside?
Oh, no.
playground?
I met with the architect about that this week, though, so
Okay,
we're
that
moving
looks-
forward.
It looks like it's gonna be pretty exciting, too.
Yeah,
I'm glad to meet you, I've never met you before.
Yeah.
nice to meet you too.
Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we need to establish rates for
Yes.
the, that'd be for the 20,
Yeah, it says
23,
21, 22,
24
but
school
it
year.
should be 23, 24.
That's, yeah.
okay.
Over the past 4 years, the school board has approved and implemented small increases in tuition to kind of keep up with the competitive rate for preschool in our area. So our current rate is $30 a day for full-day students and $15 a day for half-day students. So I'm just proposing a $1 a day increase for half-day to up to $16 and $2 a day for full-day students for $32. That's still competitive with MCCSE's rates, which are $36 to $40 a day, depending on the age of the student, 3 or 4-year-olds, and is still less than the market rate for On My Way Pre-K.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move approval of the $1 increase in the half-day and $2 in the full-day rates.
I second, that's
Any questions? Moved and seconded, questions, comments?
very, I mean, I think it's very reasonable.
Very
From talking to a lot of families, that's probably why we have a waiting list, too. Yeah, so, thank you.
There'll be a lot of people really excited if we can expand enrollment.
I know.
In the future, so. Okay, anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and it is
Thank you.
very nice to meet you. Okay, now we have consideration to approve the updated contingency learning and safety plan. So we'll go back to Dr. Sanders.
ESSER requires school corporations to update their in-person instructional plans every 6 months. The plan that was presented to you tonight, you approved back last summer. We have not made any changes to that plan, but we are basically asking the board to reaffirm that plan tonight. Knock on wood, I think things are going pretty well. I just pulled the attendance percentage for first semester today, and at the preschool is 94.3%, EPS 94.2, at EIS 94.9, and at the junior high 94.5, and at the high school 93.5. So, you know, like I said, knock on wood, but we would just like to ask the board to reaffirm that same plan.
Have a motion?
I move to approve the updated contingency learning and safety plan.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
Glad to hear those percentages, that's encouraging.
Yes, and you can understand the high school being just a little bit lower with college visits and different things that
That's
those
pretty
high school
typical,
students
yeah.
are involved in.
But to be honest with you, we are readjusting after the pandemic and it will go up.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Good.
good to hear.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully this is on the rearview mirror.
All right, anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now we have consideration to approve the amendment to the TIMS grant. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, this is a regular request that we make with the TIMS grant. Anytime that we make changes to the grant budget, we are required mainly by IU to get the amendment approved. This amendment number 7 is a budget adjustment due to some increases in salaries at IU. And the amendment also extends the grant agreement until September 30th, 2023. So I recommend your approval of this amendment.
Move to approve the amendment to the TIMS grant.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
The extension to September, is that what we've been doing in the
Yeah,
past?
it extends it every year.
Okay.
Any further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have consideration of the Edgewood Junior High kitchen upgrade, and for that, we'll turn to Vicki Coffey.
Thank you for your time. I am coming to you tonight for approval to purchase a junior high kitchen upgrade. We have a lot of wasted space in our kitchen currently that we can utilize for our needs as we continue to grow. And that is to get a bigger walk-in freezer, one that I can actually walk into would be great, without taking things out of it first, and then a walk-in cooler as well. In doing so, there's not a lot of structural things that we need to change. We would just do a few in moving our freezer, using the existing storeroom space. We would purchase a box, a new compressor, and then using the existing space that our cooler and walk-in are currently in, we would take those boxes out, put a new box in, and that would be our walk-in cooler. We would move a couple of doors as well, and then move our office, our current office, to the to the locker room space, which I believe our kitchen at some point must have been, tied in with the gym or something, because our bathroom has a shower and the locker rooms as well. So we would utilize that space for our office. I've already met with Arnold, of course, and talked with Rick about moving the office to the locker room for those needs for technology and such, and they're all on board. Had some experts come out and provide those quotes for you as well. Of course, this would help us to help from any potential safety issues we might have, because we currently move 40-pound cases of ground beef, roast turkey, a lot of our brown box commodities that we receive from the DOE, and those are essentially free. It's like an admin fee for $3.95, so we would never want to turn those down. But we currently don't have the space at the junior high for those. So we store them at our intermediate and primary school now and move those over in one of the school vans. So that's just to help with any safety issues that might happen there as well. We would be purchasing these through the lunch fund. We have, you have your monthly reports there from December. We have a balance of $809,000. Our allowable balance is a 3-month expenditures, which is $327,000, so we need to spend $481,000. We asked for reach-in coolers and a warmer for the junior high last month, and we asked for the 2 new combi ovens to replace the 21-year-old combi ovens at our elementary schools. That's $113,000 that we've encumbered for that. So that would be taken off of this amount. So we're down to $370, and then this $140 will put us down a little lower. We do have to turn in a spend down plan each year if we do have a balance over the $327,000, in which I did this year to the IDOE. And this is part of it. This was on the spend down plan. This came about too through the feasibility study as well. So I wanted to give you some numbers from November of 2020 because some of you might ask how we ended up with such a balance. And we did because of universal meals. So when we were having universal meals for all of our kids, our participation was out the roof. And we were receiving a little over $4.50 for every meal, for every paid meal, every reduced meal, every free meal. Plus, we had about a 30% labor cost at that time with staff shortages. So we worked very hard. All of us worked very, very hard because we typically have about a 45% labor cost. So that's where we ended up with that balance. Back to the November of 2020, we were at 178,000 in our fund. So that's a little bit of dough between now and then. But that's why I'm coming to you tonight to use those funds and get us where we need to be at the junior high.
Okay.
If you don't know Vicki Coffey, which I know you do, she is a planner, she's a detailed person, and of anybody I know, she really makes the most of the funds that she has. These plans for the kitchen at the junior high, she did her homework, she talked to a lot of people, brought Matt and I up there, so I wholeheartedly support Mrs. Coffey's request tonight.
Okay, so the motion would be to accept the quotes that are in the board packet for these items, correct?
Yes.
Christine?
It would be to accept the C&T.
The C&T, yes.
$136,586.
That's correct.
The other quote was just provided, I think, for reference that she obtained multiple quotes. This was the lowest quote that was obtained.
And a reputable vendor that I've worked with before. A reputable vendor that I've worked with before, C&T Design. They design kitchens and have for several years.
So we'd be approving the kitchen upgrade with the C&T design and equipment quote of
136.
totaling $136,586.
I move that we accept the C&T quote for 136 plus and the upgrade for the kitchen.
Okay,
I'll second.
moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
Just trying to think how we can criticize her for having too much money in the bank.
Yeah.
I want to thank Ms. Coffey. She spent probably 30 minutes last week
Oh.
explaining all this to me and Mr. Kerr, and I threw a lot of questions at her. She didn't get mad or anything, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate all the time and diligence you put into this, and the fact
She has a lot of patience also.
right, and the fact that this is all funded through the cafeteria fund and her diligence of that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and
Yes, thank you.
you worked so hard during COVID to make sure that the kids were fed. And, so you did an awesome job then, you and your staff. And always appreciate your ingenuity too. When you come to us, you usually have really thought through what it is you're looking for and how to, make it happen in a pretty economical way. So appreciate that too. Okay. Is there anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now, our last action item is consideration to approve the 23-24 school calendar.
Yes, so we would like the board to approve the calendar for next school year. We've talked to our administrators, and they had a lot of input in it, and then we talked with our Teachers Association and allowed our teachers to have some input, and that enabled us to come up with a calendar that then the association sent out to the teachers for feedback. And so this is what we've come up with. I think it's a really good calendar. The first semester will start on August 9th and end on December 20th. The first semester is 3 days longer than this current school year's first semester. Winter break will be December 21st until January 3rd. This is 1 day less than this year. Second semester will begin on January 4th and end on May 22nd, 2024. And so that second semester will be 3 days shorter than this year. So you see, we're just kind of balancing out the 2 semesters there. We are going to add a day off that we haven't had in the past, pending we don't have any snow days. We're looking forward to having February 19th, President's Day off in 2024. That stretch of time between now and spring break gets awful long, so we'd like to try to give a day in between there. Spring break will be March 11th through the 15th, and that's 1 day less than this year. Basically, in the last several years, we've taken that Friday before spring break off, and we're not going to do that next school year. And then something unusual in 2024 on April 8th, our area will be in the direct path of totality for a solar eclipse. And of course, you know when that solar eclipse is going to happen, right at dismissal time. So our plan right now is to take April 8th, 2024 as an e-learning day to be able to have the students safely at home and not having to be sending them home right during the middle of the eclipse. We're also expecting, our area is expecting a lot of people to come in. That's been reported to me. A lot of people are going to come to our area to see this solar eclipse. So we'll see if that happens. What I also like about this calendar is it gets everybody finished, students and staff, before Memorial Day. And I think that's, unless we have snow days. Graduation will be June 1st. And this year I made up, for 2023-24, made up a snow makeup day plan. So everybody knows up front, if we have a snow day, what we're going to do is the first snow day. And I'll just go over that real quick. So for the next school year, 23-24, if we have a snow day before February 19th, then President's Day will become a school day. And then we're limited to 3 e-learning days, asynchronous e-learning days, which was how we deliver our e-learning days as asynchronous. So synchronous, you could have unlimited, but synchronous means you have to have live stream. It has to be live. And quite frankly, I don't know how school corporations can do that. We learned through COVID that families who have 3 or 4 students in the home, they can't all get on the computer and do their live classes at the same time. So we have to go the asynchronous route. So snow day number 2 would be the first e-learning day. Snow day number 3 would be the second e-learning day. Now, if we have to have 4 or 5 snow days, then we're going to jump to the end of the school year and make up those days at the end of the school year, because we're trying to save that third e-learning day for April 8th. Okay? And so this is all be lined out. We'll put this on our website, the school calendar, plus the snow makeup day plan. We will send this out to parents so they know what the calendar is next year, and also know the snow makeup day plan. And then I also plan on seeking another flexibility waiver. We did that this year, and we were able to get 4 early release days. Now, we've been talking about doing something different than the early release days. But by the time we get to when the application is due in May, then we'll have a different plan maybe for the flexibility waiver for next year. So we may bring this back to you for approval if we get that flexibility waiver approved by the state, which usually happens like in July. So this is my presentation for the calendar.
Have a motion?
I move that we accept the proposed calendar for the 23-24 school year.
Is there a second? A second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Hard to believe that we're talking about 2024, but
What I was thinking.
Isn't that the truth? I remember when I was a kid, I used to wonder, I wonder what it's going to be like in 2025. Well, here we are.
I'm still trying to figure out what it's going to be like in 2000. So
Right.
I know this year was a little tough. I
Yeah.
know that there's,
Flexibility is what scares me. I mean, I don't know if we can give, as soon as we know
Yeah.
the flexibility is, we need to get that communicated. So I had some people express concern about that, but we may be handcuffed by the state
yeah.
on that.
Yes, with the limiting the e-learning days, then we just don't have any time for parent-teacher conferences. We don't have any time for professional development for our teachers to get into their professional learning communities. And so we just had to go this route, and I'm glad we have the opportunity because the parent-teacher conferences are probably most important of all. And the teachers and parents value those, and the students benefit from those parent-teacher conferences.
I was starting to say was that this year, January 2nd being on a Monday was kind of difficult when a lot of the teachers went back to work, but the rest of the world was off. I worked because I thought if the teachers were out, it'd be in my office too. So, but I know that went through the association and everything was approved, but and collaborated on. But looking back, I kind of wish we'd have done something a little different for January 2nd.
And going back to e-learning days, the rationale for that, because we heard, from parents during COVID how hard it was sometimes for parents to do e-learning. And so the whole idea was to give them at least a morning of direct instruction, a person-to-person instruction for the students. And so that's why we've implemented the e-learning days. The problem with the e-learning days is there's a lot of disrupting of family schedules. There's a lot of disrupting of school schedules and for just a few hours. So we're going to look for another manner, another method under the flexibility waiver guidelines.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have Dr. Sanders, your superintendent's report.
Yes, this is probably one of my favorite reports that I give every year because I really like to go over the goals that I have for this year, and hopefully as the school year goes along and we bring to you reports, we bring to you requests for different decisions, hopefully you can be able to track those programs, those ideas, those plans back to these goals. And so superintendent goal number 1 is to continue providing students and staff with a safe school environment. School cameras is a big one that we've been working on, and the upgrade of our school camera system is 95% complete, so we're almost there. We have the best school resource officers in the state of Indiana. In fact, we have a new one. And so I asked Jason Brown to come here tonight. And Jason, could you stand up? And you might all know Jason from being an Edgewood grad. But he impressed me right off the bat because Before he even started, I think before even I emailed him, he asked for a meeting with Matt and I and the principals to go over our expectations for a school resource officer. And so he was very proactive. And that was such a really good meeting. And he's going to work so well with Alec. I still have it in my plans. I'm looking for funding. I would love to have a third SRO, and so we're really working hard to try to find the money for that. It's just so much needed that we could have. We'd love to have an SRO just for the high school, one just for the junior high, and then have one to share at the elementary level. Our school safety team, it continues to meet on a regular basis, and you know, with school safety, it's just a never-ending activity that we're involved in. You have to be determined, you have to be steadfast, you have to always be looking for ways to keep our students and staff safe. Goal number 2 is to continue leading RBB to a position of financial strength. And if you heard Matt's report tonight, I think we're doing that. We've used the phrase doing business better for the last several years, and I almost changed it to doing business well because I think we are doing it well. And I think Matt he's very talented in leading us financially and other ways. And so we're doing things very well financially, but I left better in there because we just want, once again, it's always something you want to try to be looking to be more efficient. You want to try to look for potential savings. All that we could do to put ourselves in a better spot financially just benefits our school corporation in terms of supporting our teachers and our staff, our bus drivers, our kitchen crew, and providing programs for our students. And so we want to keep doing well in that area. Superintendent goal number 3 is to lead RBB to a sustained growth in enrollment. We were up a little bit this year, but we would like to be growing a little bit faster, actually, I think. We have a lot of housing going on in the area. We have such a high quality, I know I'm prejudiced, but we have such a high quality school corporation, and I just want to tell people, hey, if you want to send your students to the best schools, Edgewood Schools is it. I've been in this field for many, many years, and I've not seen a better school corporation than RBB. We want to continue to work our marketing plan. We have neighborhood ambassadors that are in strategically placed in certain neighborhoods. They have a yard sign which identifies them as an ambassador. We want to try to continue to maximize those opportunities. And then continue to have an active marketing plan. And so I put a link in here to a page on our website. It's for prospective families. And I'd like for you to give you a little homework to go home tonight and get on our website and look at the page for prospective families. It talks about our preschool, each of our primary, intermediate, junior high, and high school. It gives information where they can link on learning more, contact information, and also a link where they can schedule a visit to come in and tour the school. So that's just another way that when someone's looking to move to the area, they can get on our website. The prospective families, it scrolls across on the main page, so it's easy to find. Goal number 4 is to lead RBB into a strong partnership between the school corporation, families, local businesses, and the community. So communication is another area where it's one thing that you just have to keep working at and trying to get better at. Soup with the Soup, now that we were getting past COVID, we had one this fall. We want to have another one probably in March. And I would like this topic to be on school safety. have a soup with the soup, and if you remember what that is, I bring in some parents, and I never get to eat any of the soup because I'm talking, but it's just a really good evening, and once again, diving deeper into school safety, I would really like to hear the parents' perspectives, how they see things, and so looking forward to having that in March. And then with Ready Schools, continuing to partner with our local businesses and service clubs. Superintendent goal number 5 is to lead RBB in creating an educational environment designed to prepare students to chase their dreams in tomorrow's world. And so in order to do that, we want to continue to improve our academic growth. Our professional learning communities is where we want to get that done. They're really starting to come along this year and be very active and effective in looking at our student data, not only for a school or grade, but down individually for students. We want to make sure that we're providing our students with a relevant and rigorous curriculum aligned K to 12. So this Friday, we have several teachers who are coming to work on aligning our math curriculum, K to 12, as a prelude to adopting math textbooks. So I'm really looking forward to Friday. One of my favorite things to do, in fact, when I left public schools and went to teach at the college level, I got more involved with that local school system, and I realized I missed hearing that. I called it chatter, but it was good chatter. It was teachers talking about their students, and I missed listening to that, and that was probably one of the biggest catalysts for coming back. Plus, I wanted to root for IU here instead of in Kentucky. And then Ready Schools. We have to do for ROI, we have to do a report mid-year and end of year, and I almost made a copy for you guys tonight. I was reading through it today, what Jamie Miller wrote for the report. It is so interesting, and you get so fired up reading that report. So tomorrow I'm going to get that ready, and we'll send it out to you, and might even put it on our webpage, because it really tells us our story really well about what we're doing with Ready Schools and how we're being innovative, and that really helps us with helping students to chase their dreams. And then I left the last thing is maybe the biggest thing. We have a director of student services, Jennifer Anderson, who is, I'm so glad we have her back. She worked with Dr. Heather Ormiston at IU. Ormiston at IU to write the TIMS grant, and then she wrote another federal grant with Dr. Ormiston, but this is like through the IU School of Education, a $3.4 million federal grant that will sustain our mental health efforts. We've been working hard over the last several years to build up our mental health program, and one of the areas that we've been struggling in is finding people to fill positions. So we have a partnership with Adult and Child, but it's hard for them to find therapists to put into our schools. And so this grant is going to provide opportunities for people within our school corporation, our current counselors, teachers who want to go into to become school-based therapists. And that's what my son Joel did. He was a teacher at Edgewood High School and went back to get his school counselor's degree and ended up being a school-based therapist. And so we're basically going to use this grant to grow our own. And then, of course, if there's anybody in the community that could benefit or we could use them, we will use these grant dollars. So it's a 5-year, $3.4 million grant. That's very awesome news. So I'll end on that positive note.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. We have RBBEA comments, and so we have Mr. Doug Yules this evening.
Good to see you in the new environment here. Happy New Year. We're already rolling along second week at school. We'll be flying till spring break, believe it or not. Just a couple thank yous, and Dr. Sanders, you made me think of a couple things, so I'm not long-winded, but a few more words than normal. Nothing seems to get attention of teachers more than a school calendar, so they had some input, but we appreciate you letting us have input. I like to think of the phrase, none of us are as smart as all of us, so it's always good to see everybody's perspective, and 23, 24, yeah, it's hard to believe, without a doubt. Also, thanks to administration for, I don't know whether it's thinking out of the box or not, but it's kind of new having this adjunct teacher option, because I know there's a need filled at junior high, and that's kind of a big demand position, it seems. So I hope that works out, and welcome her all the best, and thanks for looking at that avenue. I think it's a great idea. Superintendent goal number 5. I'd say on behalf of the teachers, we're happy to help you reach that goal. As you said, we wear a lot of hats. I mean, we're not making robots, whether they come in at pre-K all the way to high school. We are helping to instruct kids that are always growing, have emotions, have all kinds of things going on. They always have stuff every day, but our bottom line job is to get them through our classes and to help them move on to the next goal. So we will do all we can through PLC and all this to help you reach that goal. And on that note, that's really it, and we'll see you in February.
Thank you, Mr. Yules. Okay, we have board member comments, and I need to make a ledger of who I call on when, but I'll just start with Mr. Tucker today on my left.
Happy New Year to everyone again, and thanks Mr. Yules and the Teachers Association for working with the administrators on the calendar for next year. I want to thank Mr. Siglin and Mr. Pogue for their flexibility in hiring the media specialists, and that is kind of a unique situation with getting that interim licensure. So thank you for your time and effort there. Thanks, Ms. Coffey, for coming, and the other administrators as well. Hats off to Mr. Brown. I'm going to challenge him. I probably met you when you were about 7 years old, and then I remember when you were about 12. You were almost 24 when you were 12. You're pretty mature. So you've got a lot of responsibility for what you're doing, and you can be a great mentor for these kids in the school. And I'm excited that you're joining the team here. So thank you. And thank you to Dr. Sanders. I was going listening to all your goals, and I couldn't wait till you got to the very end. So that made my night, the $3.4 million grant. So thanks to Ms. Anderson and the help we've got from IU as well, and thank you for finishing our night on a high note.
Mr. Journal?
Thank you. What a great evening. I'm just so proud of this system. I just can't tell you how pleased I am, how things are going, how honored I am to serve as a board member. Congratulations to the basketball team, a good victory Friday night, and then a great one Saturday night, apparently. Yes. Yeah, and I shot that and won that game. But thank you, your school administrators, for being here. I know you got a tough job. I mean, hours and hours and hours you spend. I really appreciate it. All of you here, Rick and everybody. Vicki, I remember when we hired you. We were $250,000 in debt, maybe more than that. And look what you've done.
Now we've got too much.
In the what? You've been here 5 years now. Is that about right? On a real positive note, we talked about SROs. Am I paying you to be here tonight, Jason? But anyway, on a real positive note, and what Dr. Sanders said about our third SRO, I'm asking that Officer Leggio be promoted to sergeant next Monday night. So it'll be a nice promotion for him, and if we do get the third one, it'll be a nice command structure for me up here with that. So I think that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Mr. DeMoss?
Just ditto on the game Friday night against the rival, but besides the final score, I think honoring the 93 sectional champs, and then the highlight for me was when Clark Chafin, a member of that team, followed the cheerleaders around the court carrying a flag. That was classic. It was wonderful, and it was perfect. Clark, that's who he is. welcome, Jason. It's terrific. I got to talk to you a little bit the other day, and I think you're going to be terrific for this position. Going along with goal number 3 that Dr. Sanders mentioned, I was talking to a university student teaching supervisor from IU this afternoon who had been visiting Edgewood High School, and the student teacher that he was talking to had no plans of teaching in the state of Indiana, and 2 weeks into her experience at Edgewood, she's thinking if something were to open up, she thinks she would like to teach here. So I think, yeah, you're exactly right. It is a very warm and welcoming, and it's just a great place to be. So, and beyond that, let's gird our loins for the legislative session and hope that things go well.
Yes. Well, thank you. I, as always, appreciate all of you being here tonight. I appreciated the robotics team coming and Mr. Kaler coming to talk about the trips. Those are so important, and I really am happy that they were able to come back, when COVIDs were past that part. I too, like I said, appreciate the ingenuity that all of our people have. When you talk about doing business better, it's because they think really hard about different ways to achieve the results that they're looking for. Interesting discussion I had with a gentleman a couple weeks ago. He was against STEM as far as funding for STEM, and he apologized to me. He said, after seeing what you guys have done, I should have never been, against that. Said you guys are doing amazing things, and then I talked to him a little bit more about things we were doing, and he couldn't believe, where we'd grown that program. So we're, he came to me and apologized. So he was, he sees what's going on at RBB and was really appreciative of that. Our website and keeping things up to date with all those things that you talked about is great. That's how people find out about things anymore is on the computer and on social media. So we appreciate that as well. With that, again, thank you for being here, and this meeting is adjourned, and there will be board signatures. Thank you.